poem is entitled Quiet Girl, and it's in the book The Dream Keeper, written by Langston Hughes. I would liken you to a night without stars, were it not for your eyes. I would liken you to a sleep without dreams, were it not for your songs. Langston Hughes, to me, is probably one of the greatest contributors of African American literature, especially during the Harlem Renaissance. And for those of you who don't know what the Harlem Renaissance is, it was a time, I want to say from like the 1920s to about the 1940s. It's a time when African Americans were prosperous in art and poetry and literature in Harlem, pretty much. Greats as Webb Du Bois and Langston Hughes himself, Dorothy Dandridge. There's a lot of influential African Americans. Langston came from almost a broken home. His mother wanted to be an actress, but when she ended up having him, she felt as though Langston held back her dreams. So Langston ended up being raised by his grandmother, and she was a great storyteller. And just even though he was always around her listening to her stories, Langston always loved being in a really good book. And as he got older, he just always liked to explore and just to be in different places. And according to Harlem Speaks by Claude Wentz, he stated that when Langston hit his teens, he ended up taking jobs on ships. And he went to Europe and to Africa, and at that time he ended up writing one of his well-known poems called The Negro Speaks of Rivers. And this was actually a trip that he took to Mexico to visit his father. And that the poem of, oh my gosh, I'm nervous, The Negro Speaks of Rivers, it's a poem that reflected African spirituality and the importance of people of African descent. In other words, his father had this crazy disgust for African Americans, of his own people, and that's one of the reasons why Langston had written this poem, to show people to appreciate exactly where they come from. Even though in most of Langston's early life, it was a lot of the poems and his writings reflected the Harlem Renaissance and just the Negro dialect and the Negro culture of that time, he ended up, the backgrounds and the themes of his poems started to take a shift as soon as he took a trip to the Soviet Union. And it was him and 22 other African American men. They went to the Soviet Union for a year to produce a film, and eventually the film never came to production. But while he was there, he wrote two radical poems known as Good Morning Revolution and Goodbye Christ. And these poems were pretty much a goodbye to his Protestant and capitalistic views and a welcoming to his socialistic ideology. That was according to Wentz in 2007. Towards the end of his life, around the age of 45, Hughes bought his first home in Harlem and ended up writing a poem called The Montage of a Dream Deferred, it was written in poem form, but a very long story of just him buying his first home and him just being able to be in the center of this place that produced amazing Black artists. By the early 1950s, Hughes actually began to profit from all of his work. I mean, just almost 30, 40 years of all this work, and he's finally just prospering from it. Even though financially he was beginning to prosper, he actually had to make an appearance in front of Senator Joseph McCarthy's Committee Against Communism, just because during that time, America was anti-communism. They were going through this deal where, a lot of people were, I'm guessing, turning into a lot of spies, and people were coming to the country at that time. So he ended up having to go in front of this committee and denouncing his ideology of socialism and just turning his back away from it. Even towards the end of his death in 1967, Hughes continued to write. And still today, in my opinion, he's still one of the greatest artists that ever lived.